This is Fight Club 24/7. My name is Johnny Rashman. Right, let's get straight into it. Cant and Brook, it's just gone down. Where do we go? Where do we start? I've got to be honest with you. The moment the fight got announced, I said to myself it could be a disaster waiting to happen. I believe both fighters were shot to pieces. I did predict that Cant would win. I didn't think Brook would be able to take any type of punishment. But I've got to be honest with you. This week I've been around boxing gyms. I've been around good boxing trainers, well-known boxing trainers, well-known fighters, and the general consensus was a lot of the trainers was picking Brook to win. A lot of the fighters were picking Cant to win. I got a text this morning saying apparently Cant was asking for an IV drip after the weigh-in. When I looked at him on the scales, I didn't think he looked great on the scales. I thought Brook looked very good. The irony is that I think Cant struggled to make the weight. The irony is, I believe Cant struggled to make the weight, and Brook didn't. I mean, who would have thought that? Brook looked unbelievable on the scales. When we're breaking down the fight, it's very easy to get caught up in hype and think Brook can be a world champion. He looks sensational, but you've got to take your feelings from that and just look at the fight. And it was very evident early on that Amir Khan had absolutely nothing left. And one thing that flew under the radar a lot during this fight, and I did mention it at the beginning of the week, was that Khan hadn't fought for 3 years. The Billy Dib fight was July 2019, so all right, 2 years and 6 months, give or take. That's a long time out of the ring, and you can just tell immediately the timing wasn't there. He was struggling with the distance. He couldn't get his jab off. He was blowing after the third round. It was just a complete domination. Brook looked good. He looked like he could hold up to the shots. I know he wasn't getting caught that much. The first few rounds he was getting caught. Khan's always dangerous with his hands, even at this stage of his career. But that quickly went by. He just wasn't throwing any punches towards the end. I think the towel should have come in earlier. He looked like he didn't want to be there, and it was just an absolute mauling, to be quite honest with you. Picking the bones out of it, you've got to. Hindsight's a beautiful thing, it really is. And I fucking hate it when I get predictions wrong. And it was only really this week that I really started to think that, well, you know what? He's not fought for nearly 3 years. He didn't look great on the scales. When I got the text this morning saying he's asked for an IV drip, doubts started coming to my head. And then I think he was a bookie's favourite, Brook as well. So as the fight was getting closer and closer, I started to think, I'm not sure about this. I don't know. Has Khan kidded us? Basically, does he know he's got absolutely nothing left, and is he just taking the money at this stage of his career? We know it's a payday. Going off the performance, there was nothing there, was there? He said that even after the fight, he said he just couldn't get up for it. The one thing that annoyed me, I mean, I love Amir Khan, and fair play, he took the fucking beating like a man. He didn't hide, he didn't quit. He took the beating, right? He did go out on his shield. But all the demands and the stipulations in contracts and the messing around with Brook, at some point you've got to ask yourself, if you're so focused on what your opponent's doing and you're trying to disrupt everything your opponent's trying to do, what does that say about yourself? Are you concerned about something? Because even the things with the fucking gloves, I mean, I'm not exactly sure what went on. I've never seen it before when a fighter's change gloves literally moments before they're going to fight in the ring. I've never seen that before. Because fighters are delicate souls. A fighter would not go in the ring without hitting the pads, testing the gloves out a million times, getting a feel for it. You know, they're very superstitious fighters. And the fact Brook just went in there, took his gloves off and put new ones on. Again, even leading moments before the fight, Khan's trying to mess around with these stupid, silly things, trying to disrupt everything Brook's trying to do. And at some point, you've got to ask yourself, just fucking concentrate on yourself. What are you so concerned about? And then I did think to myself, I'm not sure about this. I had a bad feeling. The fact that at the very last minute they're still trying to get in Kell Brook's head, that means they're trying to do everything humanly possible to get an advantage. And I know it goes on in professional boxing, it goes on all the time, but come on. There has to be a time where you just need to focus on yourself and just fucking fight. Stop being concerned about what your opponent's doing. If you're breaking down the fight, Cant looked okay in the first round, but it's like anything. I think he might have had a good second round. But he could have a great 2 minutes of 40 seconds of a round. And then the last 20 seconds, he could get caught. Every time he got caught, he just looked like he was going to go. He did well to stay up on his feet and take the shots. But it was just a complete mismatch, wasn't it, really? It was a beatdown. I think the towel should have come in. Terence Crawford looked absolutely shocked when it was 4 or 5 rounds. He just didn't know what he was looking at. It was very evident early on that Cant had nothing left. The legs were gone. He just didn't look stable. He couldn't throw his combinations right. I think the 2.5 years out of the ring played a massive distance. The timing was just not there. We just couldn't get his timing. And I did say that Brook would struggle because, again, he relies on timing. He's not fought for a year and a bit. But then Cant hasn't fought for 2.5 years. So he struggled more with the timing. Brook looked like his timing was actually decent. You can't go off that. You can't go too much off the fight. You can't say Kell Brook's ready to be a world champion again because he's fighting. He's fought a faded fighter, hasn't he? You know, and it's hard because I love both men, and you can't really take anything from that fight really because they're not in the primes. I always thought Kell Brook would win this fight in the prime. I've said it for many years. His timing would have been too much for him. He'd have taken him out. The only reason I didn't think he'd win this fight is I didn't think he'd have anything left. I thought Cant's picked this fight because he knows that Brook won't be able to take any type of sustained punishment. Is it anticlimactic, the fight? No, I think it was enjoyable, wasn't it? You know what it was? I think I'm concerned now for British boxing, to be quite honest with you, because those two are the last two real big stars of British boxing. Really big stars. You know, who's going to sell out an arena again? Conor Benn. You know, and I love Conor Benn, but he's not an American. He's not a Kell Brook. He never will be. Don't care what he says. He's not. We might get sold a load of shite with him. He's this and that. And look, I do like watching Conor Benn, but he's not American. He's not Kell Brook. I don't see who else is coming through. I think that fight at the MEN with that build up, like a Froch Groves type of thing, I don't see where we can see that again, unless, and for me this has to happen. I think it will happen. Chris Eubank Jr. and Kell Brook. It's the only play in town for Brook. He's not going to make that weight again. He's not going to fight for a world belt. So if he goes up to like middleweight, there's no big names there. Is he going to fight a Charlo? It's not really a big money fight. The Chris Eubank Jr. fight is there for him. I know he's a middleweight, but he's not a big middleweight. He'll like the fat Brook that he won't have to boil down again. And that's a fight on Sky Sports. You know, it's a ready-made pay-per-view fight between two big British boxing stars, and I want to see it. I think you can't say Kell Brook can win that fight at this stage because you can't really go off that performance because Khan was absolutely shot to pieces. You won't see him in a boxing ring again, not unless it's a silly exhibition fight, or you won't see him in a competitive fight again. He's finished, he's shot. The Eubank fight is an interesting fight. I just think as well that Eubank will be a bit more vicious in that fight. I think he will let his shots go. He won't be able to outbox Brook. And I think the barrage of punches and the sustained punishment Eubank could dish out on Brook on his face. I don't know if his eye can stand up to it because Khan isn't a big puncher and he wasn't letting his hands go. How many shots did Kell take? Not many. Eubank's a different story. He'll let his shots go, and he'll be vicious with it in that fight. So it's a fight I want to see. I don't care what anyone says. Kell Brook and Chris Eubank Jr. is a pay-per-view fight. There's not many in the UK now. It's dying off now. That generation of stars, Froch, Groves, Kell Brook, Amir Khan, Tony Bellew, they're all gone. You know, James DeGale, they're all gone, and we're at a crossroads now with UK boxing. Who are the next stars coming through? It's going to take a few years because we've had a solid run. You know, if you look at the times I think it was 2013, where we had the most amount of world champions. I think we had more world champions than Mexico. I mean, let that sink in. The UK had more world champions than Mexico at one point. I think it was like 13 world champions. It was just a ridiculous amount. Every week a British fighter was winning a world champion. Every week a British fighter was becoming a world champion, it seemed. Looking back on them days, what days they were now. We're not going to have that for a while. It's going to be a long road now till we get legitimate stars like your Brooks, like your Khan, like your Bellews. It really is, and I'm gonna miss him. I'm gonna miss Amir Khan. Amir Khan is just an absolute warrior. Always has been. I don't care what anyone says. It's easy to say glass jaw, you know. But the guy goes out on the shield every single time, apart from Terence Crawford. The guy provides entertainment, and I think it'll be one of those fighters where, like anything in life, you'll miss him when he's gone. He's provided such thrilling nights, you know, and every time you watch a Amir Khan fight, you're on the edge of your seat because you know there's a vulnerability about him where he can get taken out at any stage, but he's that fast with his hands as well that he's always giving problems to his opponents. And I'm going to miss him in British boxing. He's been a character. He's been a big star for the UK. He's representing the sport well. Fought the best around. They ducked Brook in the prime. Wasn't happy with it. Still not happy we got the fight now. It's pretty evident it was just one last payday. But you've got to respect Amir Khan. I'm gonna miss him. I really am. It's a shame we're not gonna get the best Amir Khan, are we? If we do see him again, I don't think we'll see him again. But if we do, it's a shell of his former self. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him fight Conor Benn, to be quite honest, at this stage. It really wouldn't surprise me that. But I'm gonna miss him. And I thought the event on the hold, if we're being completely honest, it wasn't a great undercard, was it? But that show was all about the main event. It wasn't for anything else really. So you can put up with that. I thought Tasha Jonas, I'm delighted that she won the world title. Horrific fight to win a world belt, but it's not her fault. She had a late change of opponent. But I'm happy for her. She deserves to be a world champion. She's good for the sport. Happy for Joe Gallagher. I've been in that gym, and that gym is a real conveyor belt of champions. I've said it before. Joe Gallagher has to go down as the best British boxing trainer of all time. Just on achievements alone. The guy is a winner. Everywhere you go in that gym, you bump into an ex-world champion, an ex-British champion, and an ex-European champion. It's just a winner's mentality you have in that gym. And they've got another world champion, Tasha Jonas, so I'm delighted for Joe Gallagher and Tasha Jonas. A friend of mine, Craig McCarthy, didn't go too well with him against Brad Raya. I like Brad, he's a good fighter. Craig just didn't get into it, did he? Never good seeing someone get knocked out like that. It was a big stage for him. It was a big step up. And it is what it is. You put yourself out there, there's always a chance you can get taken out. And unfortunately for Craig, he got took out. Fraser Clark, again, he can't go off that performance. Late change of opponent. But what I will say about Fraser Clark is he looked in shape. I've never seen him look that well. I've never seen him look that good. He's always looked a bit fleshy, looked good, looked in shape. He's only 30 years of age. He could be a bit of a problem, Fraser Clark. He's a, great amateur career. No mug. He's no mug, So I'm looking forward to see how he progresses. I thought it was a good night. It was good to get that Sky Sports feel of boxing again. I still think with Boxer, I do like it. I like what Ben Shalom's doing. I really do. He's putting his own mark and things, but I think it's only little minor things like with things with the production. It's like it's too much sometimes, too forced. I don't know. It's just, I think familiarity breeds contempt, and it is going to take time for the British audience to click with boxer. But this event will help them. I mean, to put Khan and Brook on so early on in his career, promotional career, Ben Shalom's done absolutely unbelievable, because you've got to understand he's had a Sky Sports contract and he literally had no fighters. Like, Sky Sports is the holy grail if you're a British promoter, and he was given that contract and had no fighters, so he's had to go out. He signed Savannah Marshall, Riakpo, Bradley Raya, Fraser Clark, Tasha Jonas. So, you know, he's got a small stable, but he's managed to put on Khan and Brook and sell out a 20,000 seat arena so early on in his career. You've got to respect that. No one's doing that at his age. At 28 years of age, you've got to take your hat off to him. So fair play. Fair play to the boy. Yeah, I'm a bit tired. I just watched the fight. So you're just trying to take it in, because you're thinking, I think when you look back now, you're thinking, did he know that there was nothing left? As he known from the beginning, because he was so confident as well. Borderline. Sometimes someone is really confident, I don't know, it makes you think sometimes. And as I say, hindsight's a good thing. But when you're looking at everything he's trying to do to disrupt Cal Brook, it was just too much, even to the very last minute of the fight. And alarm bells started ringing for me, because that's you're not focused on yourself there. If you're too concerned about what your opponent's doing, there's something gone wrong. And from the moment the bell rang, his legs just didn't look right, did it? Couldn't get the jab off. The combinations went after 2-3 rounds, and I think the towel should have come in earlier. I think he didn't need to take that punishment. I think Crawford's coach should have thrown a towel in. Right, that towel should have come in 2 rounds before, in my opinion. He was fucked, wasn't he? But I'm very happy for Cal Brook. Vindication for himself. I think with all the fucking around he had to endure, I'm just glad that he got the win. I love both men, and I'll always have respect for Amir Khan. But it is what it is. Don't get too on the Cal. Don't take too much away from that, because it's very important. You've got to understand that Amir Khan was a shell of his former self. You know, most fighters would have beat him. That version of Amir Khan, most fighters, British level fighters would have beat him. British champions would have beat him. You can't take too much from it. So yeah, it was a good night, and yeah, it's just, it is what it is. Did I think that could happen? There was always a possibility of it. Both fighters, as I mentioned, I said, were shot to pieces. Clearly, Cal Brook had more than Amir Khan. I don't think he'll pursue anything else. I think the only playing time for him is a Chris Eubank fight or retirement. I'd like to see him retire, go out like Carl Fox did, go out on a victory, you know, in a mega event. But it was a decent night's action, and we finally got to see it. And would that have happened 5 years ago? I believe Cal Brook always would have won that fight, but you will never know. Right, let me know what your comments are. What do you think of the fight? Do you think Cal Brook can fight? Do you think Cal Brook can contest at world level? Do you think there's any world? Do you think he can win a world belt? Do you think it's just European level? Do you think the Eubank fight's there for him? What do you see next for Cal Brook? What do you want to see him? I want your opinions. I want to see the Chris Eubank fight. I do. I think that's a big fight on Sky Sports. That could happen. I mean, you could put Savannah Marshall, Clarissa Shields on the undercard of that. I mean, you're talking the pay-per-view for that fight. That's not a pay-per-view fight. You put that on with Cal Brook and Chris Eubank Jr. Big card, isn't it? So you never know. Maybe that could happen. But let me know what you think. Do you think we disappointed in Khan? Did you think Brook performed extremely well? Did you think he was shot to pieces, Amir Khan? Let me know your opinions. Make sure you like, subscribe, and have a look at the channel every single day. There's always going to be content put out. And yeah, I'll see you soon.